Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into the world of facility management.
That's right. And we're drawing heavily from the Facility Management Handbook. It's quite the resource.
It really is. Compiles, what, over a century of combined experience?
Exactly. From professionals right in the thick of it. It covers, well, pretty much everything from daily grind stuff to long-term strategy.
Right. And for you, our listener, maybe you're just curious, maybe prepping for a meeting, or maybe you just want to understand, the buildings around us a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission here is really to pull out the essential bits, the key knowledge, maybe some surprising facts, clarify what's really important today.
Without getting lost in the weeds, think of it as your fast track to grasping what facility management is all about now.
Yeah, how it really impacts organizations' bottom line and all that.
Exactly. Productivity, costs, employee experience, it's all connected.
Okay, so let's dive in. The role itself.
Yeah.
It's changed quite a bit, hasn't it? Not just fixing things anymore.
Oh, definitely not. That traditional view, the person deep in the boiler room dealing purely with technical things, FM speak, the source calls it.
Right.
That's shifted massively. The modern reality, it's about business leadership, strategic planning.
So less reactive, more proactive, shaping the environment.
Precisely. It's about actively shaping the employee experience, optimizing how resources are used. It directly hits the bottom line now.
So what's the new working definition, if you had to sum it up?
The handbook emphasizes integrating people, place, process, and technology.
Right.
And the big addition there, the one really highlighted now, is technology. That wasn't always front and center in older definitions.
That makes sense. Everything's tech-driven. Think about tracking energy use, space.
Exactly. All the software available now, it's a world away from old paper systems.
So what kind of person thrives in this role today? It sounds like you need more than just knowing how buildings work.
Oh, absolutely. The source points to three key traits: being a business leader, a strategic planner and implementer, and crucially, a resource obtainer.
Resource obtainer. Like fighting for budget.
Partly, yes. But also securing the right tools, the right people, consultants, thinking strategically about how the facilities actually support the organization's bigger goals.
And this isn't just theory, right? The book mentions evidence.
Yeah, there's survey data. Facility managers themselves see their role expanding way beyond the old boundaries. You see things like shared services gaining importance and just the recognition of FM as a real profession. That's growing.
But there's still a need for better education, more research in the field.
Definitely. The source flags that. To really support this growth and professionalization, we need more robust academic backing. It underscores just how strategic the role has become.
Okay, so it's maturing, needs to be integral to the organization. Which brings us neatly to organizing for success. It shouldn't be tacked on as an afterthought.
No, absolutely not. The handbook is really clear. Facility management needs to be woven into the fabric of organizational management, not just called when something breaks.
Aligning the department with the parent organization's goals.
Critically important. Moving away from, say, an old public works model towards something more integrated. That's usually a strategic choice to boost responsiveness and link FM to the core business.
And this actual structure within the facility department, does that matter much?
Fundamentally. The book makes a pretty bold claim, actually.
Oh, yeah.
It says good departmental organization can solve like 90 to 95% of a facility department's problems.
Wow. So structure is almost everything.
It highlights just how vital a well-thought-out structure is for things to run smoothly.
Okay, so what kind of structures are we talking about? The handbook outlines different models, right?
Yeah.
Depending on size and complexity.
Yeah, they generally scale up. You've got the basic office manager model in tiny places where FM is just one hat someone wears. Then it moves up. One location, one site, maybe one location, multiple sites, which brings in coordination needs.
Okay.
There's the public works model, often in government or education. Then multiple locations, strong regional HQ, centralizing some functions. And finally, the fully international model dealing with global complexities.
That makes sense. Scaling up.
And in all of them, the structure back at corporate headquarters is pretty key.
And the ideal team. It's not always just internal staff, is it? What's the thinking there?
No, the source suggests the sweet spot is often a blend. You have your permanent staff, but you supplement with external consultants for specific expertise and contractors for certain services.
Some civility.
Exactly. You get access to specialists when needed, but without the massive overhead of keeping everyone in-house for every single eventuality.
Okay. Let's shift gears to the facility management lifecycle. Sounds very holistic. Cradle to grave for a building.
That's a good way to think about it. It covers everything from spotting the initial need through design, construction, all the way to operations, and then eventually disposal. This long view helps make better, more sustainable, cost-effective decisions over the building's entire life.
Does it matter much if the facility is owned versus leased in terms of the manager's control?
Oh, significantly. In a lease space, the landlord often handles a lot the actual space, build out, ops, maintenance, repairs. It's all in the lease.
So the FM manages the tenant side within those constraints.
Right. Whereas in an owned facility, even if you bring in outside designers or builders, the ultimate control and responsibility, that usually sits with the facility manager.
It feels like FMs are getting pulled in much earlier these days,
Yeah,
not just after the building's up.
definitely. The whole industry is shifting. You hear AEC, architecture, engineering, construction.
Yeah.
Now it's often AECO, adding operations right into that acronym.
Ah, okay. So operations is considered from the get-go.
Exactly. Facility managers are involved much earlier, ensuring operational needs are baked in from day one.
What about tech like BIM, building information modeling? How does that fit?
VIM's becoming huge, especially for new builds or major renos. Think of it like a super detailed digital twin of the building before you build it.
Right. Better planning, coordination.
And management throughout its life. Being able to use BIM data can even sway who you hire as consultants or what kind of building automation systems you choose.
Okay. Planning, finances, budgeting. This is where the strategic side really comes in, yeah? Not just fixing leaky faucets.
Absolutely crucial. The handbook really hammers the link between facility planning and the overall business plan.
They have to align.
Exactly. The idea is for every business plan, strategic, midterm, whatever, there needs to be a matching facility plan, developed side by side.
It mentions 5-year planning. But things change so fast now. Does that long view still hold up?
It's a valid point. But
Yeah.
the source argues, yes, it's still valuable. Okay, the initial lift to create it is big.
Right.
But once you have that framework, annual budgeting becomes more about tweaking, not reinventing the wheel every single year. It gives you a roadmap, even if you need detours.
And planning isn't done in a vacuum. There are constraints. Where do those usually come from?
Usually straight from the company's business plan. Budget limits, specific timelines, maybe strategic goals like rapid expansion.
Which might mean prioritizing speed over, say, long-term cost savings in the facility plan.
Exactly. Those constraints shape the whole process.
Financial planning. The book talks about developing multiple scenarios. Why bother with that?
It gives you a much better sense of certainty, or uncertainty, really. It shows a range of outcomes.
Right.
It also kind of insulates the department if things go sideways. Allows for contingency planning, sensitivity analysis, like what happens if energy costs spike?
Being prepared instead of just hoping for the best case scenario.
Precisely.
Okay, the operational budget. For someone maybe not deep in FM, what are the big cost buckets?
Well, you've got your utilities, power, water, heat, rental costs if you lease land or buildings, and then planning and design costs are significant.
That includes things like CAD or BIM software.
Consultants, yep. CAD BIM development, maintenance, consultant fees for planning, design, furniture, even life safety, energy audits. All those ongoing costs to keep things running and adapting.
What about chargeback systems? Billing departments for their space, how do those work well?
The key is accurately calculating the true cost of everything, including overheads. Automation helps a lot with allocating costs fairly and managing it flexibly.
So you might charge rent for the space plus standard services, then extra for add-ons.
That's a common model. And if you, our listener, are in a department getting charged, it's good to understand how those costs are figured out.
Facility budgets seem tricky. They make short-term needs with long-term investments. How do you balance that?
That's a huge challenge. It's really tempting to raid the maintenance accounts for short-term savings, right?
Yeah, delay painting, put off replacing the carpet.
But that just leads to bigger bills down the road. Ideally, a good chunk of the annual budget comes from that long-term work plan, ensuring preventative stuff doesn't get sacrificed.
But what if you don't have that sophisticated long-term plan? How do you budget then?
Then it's more about gathering immediate needs, looking at historical spending, and, yeah, some guesstimating. The handbook has tools, like a matrix, to help extrapolate based on past data, usually in constant dollars.
What about discretionary projects, the things that pop up? How do you handle those?
The advice is to plan for those at maybe 15% over your initial budget target.
A buffer?
Kind of. It means if some projects get dropped, you have other well-thought-out options ready to go, not just scrambling for something convenient to spend the money on.
Cost savings and cost avoidance. Sounds like FM's chance to shine for the higher-ups.
Absolutely. The FM should be actively promoting these wins. Energy savings, better purchasing deals, preventing major repairs through good maintenance.
So the tangible financial benefit.
Exactly. Publicize it.
Once the budget's done, how do you check it? Make sure it's sound.
Several checks are needed. Compare it to past budgets. Look at unit cost per square foot, that kind of thing. Compare line items to the current year. Look for trends.
Explain the variances.
Right. Explain any big differences, flag new issues, show the impact of funding cuts. It's an ongoing analysis to catch problems early.
The book mentions the problem of end-of-year spending sprees, trying to use up the budget.
Oh yeah, that peak and valley spending makes workload management a nightmare for FM and purchasing.
And you end up doing quick, easy projects, not necessarily the most important ones.
Often, yes. Better long-term planning helps smooth that out.
Are there key financial questions an FM should always be asking, like a dashboard?
The handbook suggests a few good ones. Things like, what are our unit custodial costs? How much of the alteration budget is spent? Total lease costs? What percentage goes to maintenance versus repair? How do our costs stack up against industry benchmarks?
Helps keep an eye on efficiency.
Exactly. Identifies where to dig deeper.
And that benchmark, 2 to 4% of replacement value for annual M&R funding. Why is that number so critical?
That comes from the National Research Council. It's seen as the baseline funding needed to just properly maintain things and avoid digging a deeper hole of deferred maintenance.
The less glamorous commitment, the book calls it.
Yeah. It's the essential cost of ownership. Underfund it, and you pay more later. Management needs to grasp that. It's like skipping oil changes on your car seems fine for a while, then bang, big repair bill.
Okay, last budget point. Informal versus comprehensive estimates.
Informal or generic estimates use standard cost databases. Quick ballpark figures, good for initial chats.
But not for final decisions.
Right. Comprehensive estimates are more reliable because they look at the specific project conditions, materials, local labor rates, not just averages. You need those for budget approval.
Okay, let's talk space. Space management. More than just allocating cubes, I assume.
Much more. It's optimizing a key, expensive resource. And space needs aren't simple. The handbook says growth can come from at least 4 places. Industry growth overall, the company's own growth, employee growth, which is complex now with remote work, and even just the organization wanting to give individuals more space or different types of space.
Forecasting that sounds tricky.
It requires good methods, absolutely. Understanding those drivers is step 1.
And market conditions affect the build versus lease decision too, right?
Hugely. Construction costs, interest rates, the economy. Lately, the source notes fewer big companies in North America and Europe are building those massive new HQs.
Right, and the public sector has its own dynamics.
Different pressures, budgets, service demands, yeah.
If an FM proposes a big space program, what do they need to ensure first to keep credibility?
They must ensure the resources, money, people are actually there or realistically planned for to turn that programmed space into usable space.
Don't promise what you can't deliver.
Exactly. Over-promising on space, you can't actually build out or furnish tanks your credibility fast.
Allocating space fairly. Now that sounds like it could get political.
Yeah.
How do you avoid headaches there?
It can get very political, especially if costs are allocated based on space. Uneven allocation, even accidental, causes problems.
So you need
Excellent records, good cost accounting, a clear, transparent, consistently applied allocation process.
What are the basics for effective space management? The fundamental data needed.
You need a solid inventory of existing space. You need to analyze utilization, how much is actually used, forecast future needs based on those growth drivers, and build in flexibility for future changes.
Does it matter where teams are located relative to each other?
Oh, definitely. Adjacencies, connectivity.
Right.
It impacts productivity. Sometimes being on the same floor isn't feasible.
So you might evaluate putting collaborating teams on different floors in the same building, or even an adjacent one.
Right. Thoughtful layout really matters for collaboration and workflow.
The book mentions specific techniques, like Richard Mother's systematic layout planning.
Yeah, Mother's approach is quite structured, uses forms to gather data on workflows, relationships between activities, space needs. It came from manufacturing, but the principles apply to offices too. Gives a logical way to optimize layouts.
And finally on space, Why are space accounting systems and inventories so necessary?
Because you can't manage what you don't measure. These systems define all the space, assign it, track changes meticulously.
Helps find hidden space hogs,
Yeah.
like paper storage.
Surprisingly, yes. Even in supposedly paperless offices, paper storage can eat up a lot of space. Good accounting reveals that. Effective space management really hinges on good space accounting.
Okay, pivoting to real estate.
Hmm.
Own, lease, develop. Big strategic decisions.
Huge. And it often ties into company culture, investment strategy, how much control they want. It's critical to compare the opportunity costs using present value analysis.
As comparing future costs and benefits in today's dollars.
Right. Those subjective factors often weigh heavily, too.
FMs aren't always real estate gurus. When should they call in backup?
Often.
Yeah.
Especially for major deals. If you don't have deep real estate and local legal expertise in-house, bringing in consultants is highly recommended.
Even if you have company lawyers.
Yeah, if they aren't specialists in local real estate law and zoning, get outside help. It costs money, sure, but it can prevent much costlier mistakes. Think of it like insurance.
What are some key questions when weighing lease versus purchase?
Financial ones are big. Interest rates, tax implications, upfront cash needed. Operational factors. Who handles maintenance? How flexible is it? Risk factors, market changes, long-term commitment, and watch out for changing accounting rules on capital leases.
Good point. When negotiating a lease, what's useful to know about the landlord's side?
Understanding their motivations helps. For example, maybe they'll offer a lower rent if they can keep certain tax benefits like investment credits or depreciation.
Oh, okay. Things that benefit them but might not cost the tenant much.
Exactly. Knowing their tax situation or financing structure can open doors in negotiation.
Site selection. Sounds like a career highlight for an FM.
Yeah.
Where do they find the info needed?
Lots of places. Federal and state agencies like USGS or the Army Corps have maps, land studies. City and county offices have zoning, tax records, planning info. Public records show mortgages, liens, easements. You gotta dig.
Any specific wrinkles for international deals? Things you wouldn't think about domestically.
Definitely needs solid exit strategies. Getting rid of property overseas can be tricky. Building decisions are often very permanent due to local rules. Orderly buying and selling is usually best. And in leases, negotiate hard for rights that don't cost anything up front, renewal options, expansion rights.
Lease administration sounds like ongoing, detailed work. What's a major risk if it's not handled well?
Missing a renewal date or another key option date, that can be a huge costly mistake. Lose a great location, get stuck with bad terms.
So meticulous records, maybe automation or consultants are key.
Absolutely vital.
We're seeing more leasing overall. Why the trend?
Flexibility is the main driver. Easier to scale up or down quickly without the massive capital tie-up and long-term commitment of ownership. Frees up cash for the core business, too.
The handbook suggests having a resident manager or tech on site, especially in city office buildings. Why?
Yeah, particularly in busy metropolitan settings. Having someone on site, a manager, an engineer, a handyman means rapid response if there's a flood, equipment failure, whatever.
First line of defense.
Exactly. Can save a ton of money and disruption in the long run.
What about property development? How's that different from just buying a site?
Development usually means changing the property's function, improving it, aiming for a profit outside the organization, like through leasing or selling it on. It's a much more involved process planning, permits, construction, marketing.
Who's typically on that development team, and what's the CFO's role?
Team might include the FM, land use consultant, designer, local legal counsel, maybe an internal client rep. The CFO is critical for vetting the return on investment. Does it meet the cost of capital? They ensure it makes financial sense.
And disposing of excess property. Is that something FMs need to worry about?
They should be just as focused on getting rid of excess property efficiently as they are on acquiring new stuff. It often gets overlooked, but holding on to unneeded property costs money and carries risks.
Why does property become excess?
Could be obsolete, company downsizes, relocates, various reasons. Timely disposal is important.
Okay, let's switch to sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a natural fit for FMs, given their focus on efficiency.
It really is. FMs have always dealt with tight budgets, so saving energy isn't new. Sustainability kind of builds on that, looking at long-range savings, responsible practices.
And life cycle analysis is gaining traction even in for-profit companies.
Increasingly, yes. Looking beyond just the initial cost to the total environmental and economic impact over the asset's whole life.
And FM plays a big part in these efforts.
A huge part. Organizations often look to their facility managers for leadership here. It's also a chance for FM to boost its visibility, show its value by hitting environmental goals and cutting operating costs.
LVD comes up a lot, leadership in energy and environmental design. Why is that important for FMs to know?
Especially in the US or for companies with US offices, understanding LG is pretty urgent now. It's the dominant green building rating system.
Landlords, tenants, everyone's dealing with it.
Yeah, requirements for minimum LED levels, reducing carbon emissions based on global benchmarks. It's becoming standard practice.
Carbon footprint. Can you break that down simply?
Sure. It's the total greenhouse gases, mainly CO2, emitted from burning fossil fuels. Includes direct emissions heating, cooling the building.
And indirect.
Right. Emissions linked to making and transporting materials, employee commutes, waste disposal, all the supporting activities. Reducing that footprint is a big goal now for environmental and cost reasons.
Who needs to be involved in sustainability initiatives? Sounds like a team effort.
Definitely broad. Employees, FM staff, finance, suppliers, procurement, senior management, landlords, tenants, public officials, even visitors. It takes collaboration across the board.
So what actually changes in day-to-day operations for sustainable building?
Lots of things. Better recycling programs, obviously. Using tech to cut energy and water use. Big changes in procurement sourcing, greener materials and services, which can get complex.
Indoor air quality, IAQ. The book flags that as a major issue. Why?
Because it massively impacts employee comfort, health, and productivity. The EPA says indoor air can be way worse than outdoor air.
Those funny smells.
Yeah.
VOCs.
Often, yeah. Volatile organic compounds from paints, carpets, furniture. Green standards are tackling this, setting limits on VOCs, pushing for better ventilation.
Is there a solid business case for green retrofits, beyond just feeling good?
Oh, yeah. Studies link better indoor environments to higher productivity. Plus, the energy savings from efficient design and retrofits cut operating costs, and it can increase the property's value.
What about triple bottom line accounting? What's that?
It tries to quantify not just financial performance, but environmental and social impacts, too. Still a bit controversial in how you measure it.
But relevant for FM decisions.
Absolutely. Facility decisions have significant environmental footprints, so they tie directly into this broader view of organizational impact.
Okay, let's walk through the design-build cycle. Programming comes first, defining the need.
Exactly. Programming is the what. What does this project need to achieve? Planning is the how. How will we do it? You gather those needs from management, end users, make sure it aligns with the big picture.
Projects usually come from work plans, but sometimes they just appear, right? Ad hoc projects.
Happens all the time. Even major projects can pop up unexpectedly. The key then is to still allow proper time for programming and planning. Don't just rush into design without nailing down the requirements.
Once a project's greenlit, what's the FM's main job during design, working with architects and engineers?
Making sure the design actually meets the program requirements, stays within budget, and hits the schedule. The FM is the bridge between the company's needs and the design team.
How do you pick a good design firm? More than just cool designs.
Way more. Look for expertise, relevant experience on similar projects, and how cooperative they seem. The handbook cautions against focusing only on creativity or awards.
Creative egos can derail things.
They can. Smooth projects usually happen when everyone's focused on the project goals, not individual glory. Compatibility matters.
The FM also manages internal clients during design. How do you keep users happy and the project moving?
That's tough, especially in big companies where decisions are fragmented. The FM has to make sure user decisions are made and communicated to the designers on time. Clear communication, clear decision pathways are vital.
What are the key design documents an FM needs to understand?
Things like the base plan shows the permanent structure, the demolition plan for remodels, and the installation plan where modular furniture, power outlets go. Got to be able to read those to verify the design works.
There's an interesting bit about employee perceptions mattering more than fancy furniture for productivity.
Yeah, it seems how employees feel about their workspace impacts productivity more than the specific chair they sit in.
So a well-laid-out space, even with basic stuff, might be better.
Could be. Though, the source adds, modern collaborative work does need furniture that supports different activities-focused work, team huddles, etc.
Right. Okay, project management and construction, bringing it all to life. What makes something a project needing formal management?
The book suggests a few flags. It's discretionary, can be delayed, involves design work, costs over a certain amount, needs multiple disciplines, IT, HR, FM, and has high user involvement, complexity, basically.
Big capital projects often get dedicated teams, right?
Yeah.
Separate from the day-to-day FM crew.
Often, yeah. Especially if they're infrequent. Major builds allows for focused expertise. Smaller stuff moves, minor repairs, alterations might be handled by existing staff as part of an annual program.
Where does the money come from? Capital versus operating budgets.
Major construction usually comes from capital funds, part of a multi-year plan, big investment. Minor stuff, alterations, typically paid from the annual operating budget, day-to-day expenses.
The construction contracts.
Yeah.
It's not just fixed price anymore.
No, there are newer models. Construction management, fast-track design build, integrated project delivery.
What are the potential upsides? Faster? Cheaper?
Potentially, yes. Better cost control, more collaboration. But they also demand different kinds of involvement and risk management from the FM compared to just getting a fixed bid.
Lifecycle costing pops up again here. Why push for that in major construction?
Because the FM understands the long-term impact of choices made during design and construction, maintenance costs, energy use, replacement cycles.
So they need to sell management on looking beyond the initial price tag.
Exactly. Show the total cost of ownership value.
Change orders seem unavoidable. How do you manage them without derailing the project?
Need a clear process. Document the change, why it's needed, the cost, the schedule impact. Get quick decisions. Automation helps a lot here. Tracking everything, keeping everyone informed.
Quality control during construction. How do you make sure it's built right?
For bigger projects, definitely hire a qualified construction inspector, separate from the A&E firm's inspections, and involve your own O&M staff throughout. They know what works operationally.
Good point. Prevents headaches later.
Big time. And the handbook mentions construction disputes, often ending up in court.
Is there a better way?
It suggests more collaborative approaches like mediation might be better for everyone than long, expensive lawsuits. Strong relationships and clear communication up front help prevent disputes in the first place.
Okay, shifting to something really critical. Emergency preparedness and business continuity. Planning for the worst.
Absolutely essential. A good plan isn't just written down. It's thorough, prepared, exercised, drilled. It covers various threats, natural disasters, security issues, and knows where to get help.
Starts with a threat assessment. Knowing your risks.
That's the foundation. You need to understand what you're most likely to face.
And it's the FM's job to be up to speed on this.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The FM has to educate themselves, train their staff, how to respond, potential impacts, evacuation routes, first aid, communication plans.
What makes an emergency plan truly effective? Key ingredients.
Clear goals for response and recovery. Define roles, who does what. Specific procedures for different emergencies. Clear communication lines. Evacuation plans with assembly points. And plans for getting back to business afterwards. Business continuity.
How do you build a plan like that? Steps involved?
Get a team together from different areas. Do that risk assessment. Develop a concept of operations, how you'll respond. Write the actual plan. Get feedback, review it, modify it, then implement it through training.
Communication during a crisis is huge. What makes a good comms plan?
Covers internal and external comms. Crucially, all info needs vetting by leadership before going out. Avoids misinformation. And ideally, use one central spokesperson or team to stop rumors and confusion.
And the plan isn't static, right? Needs testing, updating.
Absolutely. You need a debugging phase, analyze it, coordinate with responders, run drills to find the flaws, then distribute it, and set a schedule for annual review and updates. Things change.
Training staff is key too. What should that cover?
Up-to-date contact lists, clear evacuation procedures, practice regularly, everyone needs to know the plan, know relevant lease stuff about exits, etc. And having pre-arranged contracts with emergency vendors, restoration companies, for example, is vital for quick response.
The book mentions a facility intelligence smart book. What's in that?
It's like a quick reference guide for responders. Alarm system info, where the sprinkler shutoffs are, utility shutoffs, gas, electric, water, key contacts, floor plans with exits marked, critical info in one place.
What are the typical stages in responding to and recovering from an emergency?
Generally, immediate public safety, first aid, search and rescue, then securing the property to prevent more damage, assessing the damage, restoring essential services power, water, and finally, business recovery, getting operations back up.
What's the FM doing during that recovery phase? Sounds chaotic.
Key tasks include accounting for all personnel, tracking everything, incidents, costs, coordinating vendors for repairs, documenting all the work for insurance, and getting the official okay for people to re-enter the building.
Emergency prep and security management feel closely related.
They absolutely are. Two sides of the same coin. Protecting people and assets. Recent events have definitely pushed security higher up the FM agenda everywhere.
Even if there's a dedicated security department, the FM still needs to be involved.
Yes. All FMs need a solid grounding in physical security. They're responsible for tenant-employee safety. They need to advise leadership, integrate security into facility design and operations.
And information security is part of that now, too. Cyber threats.
Increasingly, the biggest threat might be electronic bad software, old infrastructure, viruses, hackers. Data breaches are a huge concern. Physical security has to support cybersecurity efforts.
So who needs to collaborate for effective physical security now?
It really requires IT, the security manager, and the facility manager working closely together. An integrated approach is essential.
Employees have a role, too.
Definitely. Security awareness, reporting suspicious things, following procedures. Creating a security-conscious culture is important. It's not just on the security or FM teams.
Given the FM's knowledge of the building, they should be in on security planning early. What should a security review cover?
Location, surroundings, building layout, access points, vulnerabilities, how effective are existing controls, cameras, alarms, reception desks, authorization levels, hardware locks, doors. Personnel screening is vital too, especially for high-risk areas.
The book mentions components of security. Deterrence, detection.
Right. Deterrence, making it look like a hard target. Detection, alarms, monitoring, delay, physical barriers, slowing attackers down. Response, what security does. And recovery, getting back to normal after an incident.
CPT'd crime prevention through environmental design, using design itself for security.
Yeah, it's about shaping the physical environment to discourage crime. Things like maximizing visibility, natural surveillance, guiding people through defined paths, natural access control, clear boundaries, territorial reinforcement, and good maintenance.
Good maintenance.
Yeah.
That links to the broken window theory.
Exactly. The theory is that visible signs of neglect, broken windows, graffiti attract more crime. So keeping a facility well-maintained sends a signal that it's cared for, monitored, and a less appealing target. Fix small problems promptly.
Okay, implementing security. Access control is key. What's its main goal?
Fundamentally, to measure and minimize risk by controlling who goes where, ensuring only authorized people get into sensitive areas.
And fewer entry points is generally better.
Much better. Easier to monitor, control, and secure the perimeter if you limit the ways in and out.
Access control is seen as the best preventive measure. How has tech changed it?
Massively. The internet allows real-time remote monitoring, wireless systems. You can manage CCTV, door access from a tablet now. Provides amazing situational awareness and control compared to older systems.
Credentialing people, employees, vendors, what's
Yes.
involved?
Verifying identity and authorization level before granting access. For staff, it's usually part of onboarding background checks, issuing badges. For vendors, confirming they're legit and defining exactly where they can go and when.
What kinds of credentials are used? Cards, biometrics.
You've got basic magnetic stripe cards. Proximity cards using RFID are common. Smart cards store more data, offer higher security. Then biometrics fingerprints, eye scans offer the highest level by checking a unique physical trait.
Security often uses a layered approach. Outer, middle, inner layers.
Right. Outer layer might be fences, lighting deterrence. Middle layer focuses on preventing entry and early warning alarms, cameras on doors, windows. Inner layer protects the most critical stuff, secure rooms, maybe biometric access for data centers.
Old school keys versus electronic access. Pros and cons.
Keys are cheap up front, familiar, but easily lost, copied. Rekeying is a pain. Electronic systems give way more control who, when, audit trails. Easy to revoke access. Downside. Initial cost, need power backup, potential system failures.
What are basic computer security best practices FMs should push?
Simple but vital stuff. Use surge protectors, UPS backups, turn off computers when not in use, use strong, unique passwords, change them regularly, log off when you leave your desk, basic digital hygiene.
Okay, let's talk operations and maintenance, O&M. Keeping the lights on. Literally, a big theme seems to be underfunding.
Yes. It's described as a major ongoing crisis. M&R budgets consistently get squeezed even while companies spend big on new buildings. It just doesn't make long-term financial sense, but it keeps happening.
The National Research Council had recommendations, right? Still relevant.
Very much so. Key ones were: have dedicated, qualified staff for M&R. Base your program on actual condition assessments, know what needs fixing, and budget that 2 to 4% of current replacement value annually for M&R, including tackling deferred maintenance backlogs.
That links back to the cost of ownership idea. It's more than just the purchase price.
Way more. Includes acquisition, running costs, utilities, cleaning, M&R, component replacements, alterations over time, major rehabs, and even disposal costs. You got a budget for the whole life cycle.
How can good cost accounting and MIS help make the case for M&R funding?
Good systems give you real data. Current costs for preventive maintenance, minor repairs, cyclical stuff, major projects broken down by building, by time period, lets you benchmark against standards, show ROI for maintenance spending. Makes a stronger argument than just saying we need more money.
What's the right mix of in-house versus contract staff for M&R?
No single answer fits all, but generally things like policy, standards, budgeting, work planning, quality control better kept in-house for control and knowledge retention. For the actual work, the best mix depends on facility complexity, local skilled labor availability, budget, comfort with outsourcing.
The brain drain in skilled trades is a worry. Can tech help?
Smart asset management systems, IWMS, can help mitigate it. They can track experienced tech's work, document procedures, help assign tasks efficiently, guide less experienced staff.
But it doesn't solve the pipeline problem of fewer young people entering trades.
No, that needs bigger solutions, education, industry initiatives. Tech helps manage the existing workforce better.
What are the keys to controlling M&R effectively day to day?
Tight control over the budget and spending. A good system for handling emergencies and shifting priorities. A strategy for dealing with unexpected funding windfalls, if they happen. Real-time MIS for tracking work orders and costs is essential. Clear accountability.
Cyclical maintenance, planning for things you know will wear out.
Exactly. Things like replacing batteries and smoke detectors, repainting walls every 5 years, replacing carpets every 10. Build those predictable cycles into the plan and budget so they aren't surprises.
And predictive maintenance, using tech to see failures coming.
That's the goal. Using sensors, data analytics, to predict when equipment might fail so you can maintain it proactively before it breaks down. Minimizes downtime, extends asset life, optimizes schedules based on actual condition, not just the calendar.
Okay, facility services, the support functions. Trend is towards outsourcing these.
Mostly, yes. For many administrative and support roles, contracting out is often more efficient. Taps into specialized expertise, economies of scale.
Like reprographics, printing, and copying. How do you balance convenience with cost?
Desktop printers are convenient, sure, but strategically placed high-volume copiers in central spots can be much more cost-effective for big jobs.
But those central spots need planning, power, ventilation.
Right. Need space for paper, proper electrical supply, good ventilation, because those machines generate heat.
Food services, cafeterias, vending, catering, in-house or contract. What drives that?
Cost is big. Desired quality and variety, employee convenience, liability around food handling is a factor too, and whether you have the in-house expertise to manage it well.
Other services, chauffeur, mail, childcare, fitness centers, they all have unique FM considerations.
Absolutely. Childcare has strict safety regs, specific space needs. Fitness centers need special ventilation, flooring, and you have liability issues. Mail rooms need secure space, equipment. Fleet management has its own logistics. Each needs careful planning.
Let's wrap up with facility management practice, the admin and leadership side. Procurement is fundamental.
Yep. Good processes for buying stuff, benchmarking performance, evaluating suppliers essential for running smoothly and cost-effectively. Need clear procedures. The FM justifies purchases based on need and value.
Tracking procurement actions should be part of project management.
Definitely. From requisition to payment, track it like any other key project milestone. Keeps things transparent, monitors progress.
The handbook warns against always going with the lowest bid for services. Why?
Because low bid can sometimes mean low quality, cutting corners, maybe more change orders later, higher total cost. It can undermine building a collaborative, reliable team of service providers. Quality and partnership matter.
What are some key leadership issues FMs need to get right?
Establishing a good service reception process, how requests come in and get handled. Clear organizational lines between, say, planning and O&M, clear responsibilities, making smart personnel decisions, getting involved in business planning, understanding internal processes, paperwork flow.
Audits are important too.
Yeah.
Both organizational and physical.
Yes. Organizational audits look at the department itself, mission, structure, staffing, relationships, find ways to improve alignment and efficiency. Physical audits assess the actual condition of buildings and systems crucial for planning M&R and capital projects based on real needs.
Customer service for an internal department. How do you manage that well?
It's really about managing expectations. Clear communication, maybe service level agreements, SLAs, uniform, impartial measurement of how you're doing, being responsive, professional, willing to be measured.
Making it easy for people to request service.
Crucial, offer multiple channels, user-friendly online portal, phone, maybe a walk-up desk. Make the process smooth and transparent.
And continuous improvement, that Schuhart cycle. Plan, do, check, act.
A great framework. Plan an improvement, try it out, maybe small scale, check the results, gather data, then act, adopt it, tweak it, or scrap it. The Work Reception Center is a good place to collect data for that check phase.
Measuring performance, benchmarking. What besides cost should you track?
Definitely look beyond cost. Average time to complete work orders, customer satisfaction scores, energy use per square foot compared to similar buildings, even internal team satisfaction. Need comparable data for meaningful benchmarks.
Re-engineering processes. What makes that successful?
Needs top management support, good training for everyone on the new way. Sometimes linking performance reviews or compensation to adopting the new processes helps drive it home.
And empowering frontline workers, giving them authority to solve problems.
Hugely important. If the tech who shows up can fix the problem on the first visit because they have the authority, training, and resources, that cuts down callbacks, boosts efficiency, improves customer satisfaction massively, fosters ownership.
Okay, facility management automation. Using tech strategically. What's the big picture potential?
Huge potential to boost efficiency and effectiveness. Move FM from reactive to proactive, strategic. It's becoming a basic business necessity. Data analysis, resource allocation, communication, all improved.
But you need good processes first, right? Don't automate bad habits.
Exactly. Garbage in, garbage out. Fix the process, then automate it.
IWMS, Integrated Workplace Management Systems, what do they bring together?
They can integrate a lot. Space, maintenance, assets, projects, real estate, sustainability tracking. Often they link CAD drawings and GIS data to a central database. Gives you that holistic view.
How does a department choose the right automation approach?
Depends on their specific needs, facility size, and complexity. Which functions are the priority, maintenance.space, budget, and the team's technical skills.
The book suggests consultants will likely still be needed, even with big IWMS platforms.
Probably. To help integrate off-the-shelf systems with existing company IT, tailor workflows, handle data migration, that specialized implementation expertise is valuable.
What are some emerging automation trends FMs should watch?
Engineered management systems, sophisticated tools for optimizing maintenance. Predictive maintenance tech using sensors and AI is growing fast. And the Internet of Things, IoT, connecting building systems to gather real-time data.
What's the bottom line when picking and implementing FM tech?
Choose the system that best serves the FM, the department, and the customers. It should make work more effective, efficient, and help document the department's value. Technology is the tool, not the driver.
All right, looking ahead, the future of FM. What needs to change or improve, according to the handbook?
A better understanding across organizations of FM's strategic importance, better organizational structures that really integrate FM in real estate into core planning, raising the profile and authority of the FM role.
Where should FM sit in the org chart, ideally?
The recommendation is, in large organizations, no more than 2 levels below the CEO, and on par with heads of other key functions like HR and IT, reflects that strategic contribution.
Standardization of titles and structures across industries. Would that help?
The handbook suggests it could. Help clarify roles, make it easier for senior management to get FM, facilitate benchmarking and sharing best practices, strengthen the profession overall.
And PR for the FM department itself. Why is that needed?
To promote its value, showcase achievements, demonstrate contributions to the bottom line and employee experience. Talk up the successes.
How? Like an annual report, newsletters.
Those are good suggestions. An annual report summarizing wins, a regular newsletter, keeping the company intranet updated with info, self-service tools, project highlights, make the department visible.
Okay, so let's try to summarize this whole deep dive. Key takeaways for our listener.
I'd say modern FM is incredibly multifaceted. It's strategically vital to organizations, way beyond just keeping things running, and it's constantly evolving, driven by tech, sustainability, and the need for proactive, efficient, people-focused operations.
What was one thing that really jumped out at you as surprising or an aha moment?
For me, probably that persistent underfunding of M&R. Knowing how critical it is for long-term costs and asset value, yet it consistently gets shortchanged. It highlights that disconnect between short-term budgets and long-term thinking that plagues many organizations.
Right. So for you, our learner, we really hope this deep dive gave you a useful shortcut into the world of facility management, maybe spark some insights. Think about which parts resonate most with your own work or interests: sustainability, emergency prep, space planning, lots to explore further.
Which leaves us with a final thought to chew on. In a world so shaped by our built environment, how will the strategic management of these spaces keep evolving? And how will that continue to impact our daily lives, how organizations perform, and our collective efforts towards sustainability?